Aloha, welcome Destination Changemakers to another live on LinkedIn. I am so happy that you're joining us here today, and thank you so much for taking time. I promise that we're going to provide a ton of value here. What we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at some metrics and metrics from the month of May, talking about what's going on in terms of demand. Now, I always start this off usually with my beautiful wife, Wendy J, and we always say aloha. She's in the background running tech today, so maybe she'll pop in, maybe she won't. But most people ask us, why do you say aloha, right? And it's because we like to spend our time between the Big Island in Hawaii and Idaho, where I'm at today. But aloha, it's not just a greeting. It's really a spirit. It's the way for us to connect. And I'm connecting with you here today to help share this information. So today, I promise we're going to get 5 takeaways that you're going to learn. And I want to make sure that we go over the metrics. I promise that I'm going to tell you about a hot market right now, something that you need to really be focusing on. I promise that I'm going to share 5 ways that you can skill up in this area and actually perform better no matter what the market conditions are, what the future brings. And then we're going to talk a little bit about why you need to become the best, not only the best version of yourself, but the best in your industry, right? So that's a tall order. So let's just sort of dive in here. And I want to start with a little bit of history of who I am. My name is David Tucker, and this is actually what we're going to talk about today, demand search metrics data for May 2022. But, hospitality has been in my family. It's been in my blood for over 40 years. And this was my humble beginnings, right? I actually grew up in the upstairs manager's apartment of a Best Western hotel in Sun Valley, Idaho. And in that, in growing up there, I worked at the hotel and I did everything. I did the front desk. I did laundry. I did housekeeping. I did ground maintenance. And my boss there, she was demanding. And my boss, she was mean to me sometimes. And my boss, well, that was my mom, right? And so my mom really got me into the hospitality industry. And from there, we actually, ran the local chamber of commerce at one point. And back then we called it a chamber of commerce. Today it's a destination marketing organization, right? And we also had a travel wholesale company. And I have worked in just about every segment of the hospitality industry, from the airlines to tours, ops to group sales, and ultimately ended up in the marketing space for the last 20 years. And so that's why I have access to the data that we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at hundreds. I looked at hundreds of analytics accounts, and I also have access to, booking pace reports, tax revenue reports, and airline, booking reports for destinations that have, dedicated direct flights into them. And so today, I promise I'm not going to share any specifics on who this data is from, right? So if you're part of my audience here, don't worry, I'm not going to reveal anything personal. I would never do that, but I'm going to take a sample that is representative of what I'm seeing in the market today and just share a little bit of that. And we're going to go from the East Coast all the way over to the West Coast and beyond in this. And we're just going to ask some questions. What is going on with demand in 2022? And specifically, this is going to be for the month of May. And I'm looking at organic data, okay? And what does that mean? When you look at, the types of traffic that come into a website, you have ads, you have social media, you have referrals, you have direct traffic, and then you have that organic traffic, which is really an indicator of the true demand, right? The true interest of what is going on. And I can't help but notice that there is a trend across the nation in what is going on. And so that's what I want to share with you here today. So we're going to jump into some screen share. And let's start by looking at some Google Analytics data. And this is for the East Coast, right? And as we are looking at this for the month of May, you can see that this particular set of metrics down in the corner here shows it's 29% down compared to last year, right? And so 29% down, when I look at a set of analytics from a destination marketing organization, it looks like this. The first question that pops into my mind is, does the SEO suck, right? Is there something going on with the SEO? And fortunately, we have access to that data for a lot of these organizations. So in looking at that, I jump in and I see that for this particular set of data, they're doing very well with SEO. In fact, they are up tremendously, right? We're looking at this, and what I'm seeing is this dark green is all the keywords that they are tracking that are on the first page, right? And that's where you have to be. You have to be on the first page. And you can see that there's some churn. There's things that always go up and down, but the number that I like to look at is how many of their search terms that are being tracked have held stable in this time. And so for me, this says the SEO is doing awesome here. And you can see all of these new keywords. All right, does that make sense? And if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. And I promise I will get to each and every one of them at the end. But it's over on this computer here. And if I look at it now, you guys are going to lose me because I've got a little bit of ADD going on. So let's jump into the next slide here. And this is for the Southeast. So as you can imagine, Southeast of the United States, places like Florida, right? So the East Coast were places like New England. This includes Florida and that Southeast area. And again, we see that they're a little bit less down. They are down about 21% year over year in terms of the organic interest, right? The people that are actually going to be looking for lodging and for a vacation, right? For an experience in the Southeast. This is probably one of the best sets of numbers overall that I've seen is for this area. And which, Florida is hot. It's popular this year. I just saw recent trends. Florida prices have gone up, especially for short-term rentals, more than anyone else in the nation right at this point. And so I want to just jump into one more. This is the Midwest, and I don't have a lot of data from the Midwest. We don't have a lot of work that we do over there. So what I do have is from a small DMO, and I'm going to take this with a grain of salt. But again, they're down about 41% in terms of overall interest month on over month. And I think you can start to see where we're going with this data, right? We're starting to see a trend. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm seeing this trend not just on a macro or on a micro level, but I'm seeing it on a macro level. So, the thing about it is when I look at the analytics and I say to myself, all right, so numbers are down, but what are people consuming? And that may be a little bit more telling, right? And there's no way that I can show this on the screen, primarily because when you look at content consumption, you're looking at URLs, and I would be giving away probably what data set that I'm looking at. And I can't do that, right? So here's the thing. When we look at content consumption, even though the overall numbers are down, a disproportionate amount of the people that are visiting are looking at summer activities, right? So that means they're near-term visitors. The other things that are up are calendar of event, right? And so when people are looking at summer calendar of events, they're already booked, right? They're probably already planning on going to this destination. Other things that are up are adventure tours and dining and shopping, right? So these are all indicators that the visitors that are coming are actually already planning, may have already been booked, and they're just looking for the rest of what they want to do. And so here's the alarming thing, right? The things that are down are lodging and, of course, seasonal search. And seasonal search, for example, maybe winter ski vacations. I know we're just getting into summer here, but a lot of people plan those trips early, fall foliage, things book up. And so the lodging search is down way more than that 25% that I'm seeing on average. It can be as much as 50%. And so that is the takeaway here. I don't have a crystal ball, right? So I'm not going to make any sort of as to what's going on, but I think you can see, from what I'm looking at that these numbers are trending in a direction. And I'm doing this today because I've seen this through April also, in terms of where the numbers are going. Okay, let's look at a couple of other pieces here. And so I'm going to look at the Rocky Mountain region. And so I'll just full screen this here so that you can see this. The Rocky Mountains, obviously the mountain region, again, has been super popular with people moving here. And that could offset some of this because most of California moved somewhere during the pandemic, right? And a lot of it was to the Rocky Mountain region. But again, still about 27% down in terms of traffic. And some recent calls, I was looking at lodging tax revenues for the month of May, and it's still pretty early to get those reports, but we're already seeing the pace of bookings down even for the summer, somewhere between 7 and 9%. But because the actual cost of lodging has risen so astronomically, we're sort of in this spot where we're making more revenue still, even though the numbers are dropping. And so that can tend to take your eye off the ball because the actual income revenue is going up, but the actual, percentage of bookings is going down. And no predictions there. I'm just going to say that is some very early information that I've been seeing. All right. And let's look at one last one here. And that is for the West, that includes Hawaii. And again, these are organic numbers. This is representative of a destination marketing organization, not on a state level, right? None of these numbers that we've been looking at are state level. They're all your regional, local destination marketing organization for an individual destination. And so you can see they're down about 27%. So in May, they had, about 49,000 organic visitors, right? That you double that with ads and then double that again with social media paid, depending on what's going on. But a significant drop from last year and 67,000 visitors, right? So this is the trend that I'm absolutely seeing in our numbers. Now, I promised that there was going to be one segment of the business that I'm seeing a lot of growth in, and it's interesting. And let's just throw this up on the screen here. Do we have anyone from the meeting and group sales? Meeting and group sales is in high demand right now. I'm seeing the exact opposite of these trends for long-term bookings for meeting and group sales. And I believe that's because we've all become accustomed to very low supply in the near term, right? When COVID came in, the game was for the consumer to book at the last minute to see what was going on. And then we all learned through the pandemic that was not a great tactic if you actually wanted to get a room and go on a vacation. So this year, summer demand started in February. We actually started running summer ads for people as early as mid and late February and started receiving bookings. And I think that's what's driving this group of business, primarily because people know that the availability is so slim, they better get something booked out for 2023, 2024, those sorts of things. So if your property, attracts group business, has meeting space, function space, banquet space, those sorts of things, I would juice up the ads a little bit there and make sure that you are working on filling to capacity, those sorts of things. And I love this business because, of course, it all comes in book direct, right? People book that business direct more often than not. I hope that makes sense. Do we have any questions at this point? I don't see anything coming in yet. So let me continue here. And what I promised in this, we were also going to talk about the skills that you need to master, no matter what you are doing in terms of marketing, and no matter what the season is, right? So good times, bad times, whatever the driver is for our market. And the hospitality industry always is the first to see ups and downs in the economy. But let's talk about the skills that are going to serve you in a huge way now and in the future for the rest of your career. And it's going to help you offset some of what I'm seeing in terms of this decline in demand, right? And that's the only way I can really frame this. And the first is, if you're a hotel in resort, bed and breakfast, or short-term rental, vacation rental, property management, you have to master local search, right? And local search, you have to rank on top. Really, you have to be in that top 3. So if you're in a city market, it can be extremely competitive, but it can be done, right? We do this with our group at Travelers Book Direct all the time. Score number 1. And it's so important if you are a lodging property or an adventure tour company, because you know that local search is the gateway to Google Hotel Finder. And if you don't show up in those first search results, there is a lower chance that you're going to get booked either through the OTAs or through your direct booking channels. Why do I say the OTAs? Because local search and Google Hotel Finder is also the gateway to meta search advertising, right? And so meta search advertising is a way to plug in your PMS, your channel manager, directly from your inventory and push it into Google Hotel ads and the OTAs that you can control the pricing and the availability and the cost you're willing to pay. And I'm not going to get into all of that, but you for sure, especially if you're an independent hotel, a lot of times your booking engine doesn't have this built in, or if it does, it's just a checkbox and you pay a flat rate, you don't get to control it. It's not a great way to run your business, right? So having a meta search advertising platform is critical, because you could turn off the ads once you're connected and you still show up in meta search with a free listing. And if you are not familiar with that, please go over to YouTube and search, hotel meta search advertising, Google free ads, and you'll find my video over on YouTube. I explain that in detail, how to get in that channel. So the third thing is organic search. You have to become a master of content marketing. Again, all of these things I'm talking about are free in terms of the click cost, right? You're not paying for ads. You're actually showing up more frequently in search organically. And so if the economy is down, your ad budgets may be down, your resources may be lowered. And this is an absolute way that you can crush it online. You can crush the competition in terms of showing up more often. So we also have some content marketing videos over on YouTube. Check that out. Email outreach is a great thing to use year-round, but especially when the economy may be a little bit lower, because hey, this is the time to reach out today for holiday customers, for next spring break, for any sort of times where you traditionally be full. And I'm not saying discount, but I'm saying get heads in beds now, get some secured things going now before other decisions get made and maybe things, continue on their path. I don't know. But I do know that through email being one of the most valuable channels you could ever have for what you do, send out some targeted segmented emails now and create future business today. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is know your numbers, right? And if any of what I'm talking about sounds remotely foreign, I'm going to say that you probably need to skill up a little bit in the metrics area, because everything we do now is data driven. If you're not making data driven decisions, you're guessing, right? And someone really smart once said, you cannot improve that which you don't measure. Sometimes I claim that as my quote, but we know it's not. But it's true. And it's true because without the numbers directing you, it's hard to make decisions. So that's what I'm going to say about that. The last thing here is, I know that you've got this, but I want to talk about the concept of being the best, right? And for me, being the best isn't just the best version of myself. It's being the best version of who you are in your organization, right? Whether you own your own business or you're inside a property, being the best in your industry, in your community, and being a destination change maker. And that's one of the things that we do. And hey, we've got a podcast over on Apple and Spotify called the Destination Changemaker Show. And I would really like it if you would check that out. But being the best will mean that you are in demand no matter what happens in the market. Because if you create such a knowledge base, you create such skills, you'll burn so brightly that people just can't look away from you. And that's what I want for you, because you'll be secure in what you're doing and you will be able to survive and weather any conditions that are out there in the market. And the last thing is, we're all in this together. And so we have some resources if you're interested in hearing about how to skill up your team, your organization, and learn the different segments and levels of digital marketing for the hospitality industry, for a destination marketing organization, those sorts of things. Just DM me and I'm happy to talk about those things with you and see how it would be a good fit for your organization so that you could have a team of the best. All right. I appreciate you spending your time today. I promised that I was going to keep this short, and look at this. I kept it to 21 minutes. Pretty good for me because I could be long-winded. I do want to jump into any sort of questions that we have. And so, Wendy, if there are any comments, if you can just maybe raise your hand, put them on the screen, jump on and say, we've got some questions and I can address them. If not, you can DM me. I'm always available.
Hey, I don't have any questions because you've answered everything for everybody. So pretty darn good session, Dave. Thank you so much.
All right. Look who's been lurking in the background the whole time. Wendy J, my partner in life and my partner in business. We look forward to working with you and seeing you in the future. And if we can ever be of service to you, just reach out and say aloha. All right. Have a great day.